take a deep breath with me real quick before we get into this video about meditation. Breathe in through the nose. Let out all of the energy that no longer serves you. All of the stress, tension, worry. All right. So today I want to talk about meditation and why it's so important that you have a practice that you do every day. Some sort of meditative practice, whether it be focusing on your breath, whether it be sitting completely still. It's extremely important that you have a practice like this that you do every day, not just once in a while, but every day. And I'm going to explain why in this video right now. So meditation, first of all, why is meditation important? See, you are constantly doing something. Isn't this true? Hear me out for a second. You are constantly doing something. You're either working, you are doing some sort of hobbies, you're hanging out with friends, talking to people, you're on the phone, you're scrolling through social media, you're watching TV, driving, listening to music, whatever the case may be, you're always in a state of doing. You're always performing some sort of action. Or, in other words, you're constantly taking in some sort of external stimuli. Isn't this true? So we rarely take the time to simply just be. So you have two sides to the coin. You have being and doing. You are called a human being. And the significance of being a human being compared to any other creature is that a human being has the ability to simply be without being in a state of compulsive action. All other creatures in the world are in a state of compulsive action. They're constantly acting instinctively. They're wired a certain way, and this is how they act. They don't have a heightened level of consciousness as we do and as we have the ability to cultivate as human beings. So, and if you look at the word human being, there's no other creature that's called a being. Because a human has the ability to simply be. Simply sit still, regardless of what's going on around them or what's going on within their mind, within their thoughts. You can simply be. You have that ability. So meditation, I'm going to give you a perspective that you've likely never heard before because a lot of people don't teach it from this perspective. But this is the most powerful way that I've discovered to help someone understand what meditation is and the reason it's so important and why it should be practiced daily. And that is to bring yourself into a meditative state. See, it's not about the practice, although the practice is needed to bring you into a meditative state within yourself. That way, when you go out into the world, when you perform your actions in the world, when you go to work, when you're around your family, when you're around your friends, you are in a meditative state within yourself. Now, what does this mean? This means that you're not in a compulsive state of being. You're not reacting to every thought, to everything that happens around you that you don't like, to the annoying and things that used to frustrate you and used to trigger you. They no longer trigger you. They no longer frustrate you because you are in a state where you are conscious, you are aware of all of these things, and they no longer have an effect on how you feel within yourself. See, to be in a meditative state means whatever happens outside of you, it no longer affects how you feel within yourself unless you allow it to consciously. So to bring yourself into a meditative state requires daily, what in the East they would call sadhana. Sadhana means spiritual practice. This means you are practicing something that is leading towards spiritual growth, that is leading towards bringing you into a meditative state, to raising your consciousness, to becoming more aware of what's going on around you and what's happening within you. See, everybody has stories and thoughts playing in their mind. You have stories and thoughts playing in your mind right now. You have a different narrative playing than I do. You have a different narrative playing in your mind than your family does. You have a different story playing in your mind than everybody else around you. And everybody else's story is different, but there's a story playing. There's thoughts, there are patterns that are constantly playing in the mind. But the thing is, who you are on a deeper internal level is beyond the thoughts, beyond the thought patterns and the stories that are playing in your mind. So when you're in a meditative state, you are able to be above the thoughts and realize that you are not the thoughts. And when you realize that you are not the thoughts, you become no longer identified with the mind. All of the suffering, the frustrations, the irritations, the triggers, the anger, the fear, all of this happens within people because they are identified with their mind. Whatever the mind does, they think that's me. Now try and stick with me here, because this is kind of difficult. When I first learned this, and when I first came across this sort of way of understanding the mind, it didn't quite click for me. I didn't understand, like, what's it mean to be identified with my mind? What it means to be identified with your mind means whatever the mind is doing, you think that is happening to you. So the mind is thinking about this horrible thing that happened in the past, and then it creates all these negative feelings within you, and then the person becomes depressed. Or your mind is constantly worried and projecting about things that may happen in the future that haven't even happened yet. This is just the mind. The mind isn't even real. It's just creating stories or replaying things that happened in the past. And then you become completely disconnected from life as it is in the present moment, the way life is. Actually, I'll tell you a story. Yesterday, the day before making this video, I was part of a sweat lodge. So a sweat lodge is this big dome. We all go inside of it, and they put these hot rocks in the middle. They close the door. It's pitch black. You can't even see your hand in front of your face. And after the sweat lodge, we stood around the fire, and the Native American chief, he's singing the songs, and we're all just sitting there absorbing the energies. And I noticed that my attention was directed on the thoughts. So my attention, like, this is very important for you to understand. Your attention can be directed, or your attention is basically your superpower. You can direct your attention wherever you want, but wherever you direct your attention, that's where energy flows. Where your attention goes, energy flows, right? So my attention, I noticed that it was directed on my thoughts. And then I snapped out of that. I raised my consciousness. I realized that there's so much life happening around me right now. Like, it was nighttime, so there were thousands of bugs chirping and making their music. The wind was blowing. You could hear the wind blowing against the trees. You could hear the chief singing his song. You could hear the wood crackling in the fire. So much was happening. Nature was just, life was bursting all around me, but my attention was on the thoughts. So I didn't hear any of those bugs. I didn't hear the fire crackling. I didn't hear the chief singing, because my attention was on the thoughts. And this is what happens to people almost all day, like throughout their entire life. Their attention is constantly on the mind. When life is constantly bursting all around you, so many things are happening around you. Like, these plants are growing right now. These plants, they're growing. This is life bursting all around you. But you are not in touch with that because your attention is on the thoughts, the mind, the story that's playing, which isn't even real. So the reason it is important to meditate every day is to take your attention off of those thoughts and put your attention onto the life process. You can do this by putting your attention onto the breath. That's another thing. Your breath is happening 24/7, but your attention's never on the breath. It's always on the thoughts. Your heartbeat is happening 24/7, but your attention's never on the heartbeat. It's always on your thoughts, the nonsense going on in your head. So to meditate, to become meditative, is extremely important, because life is not supposed to be lived in the confines of your mind. Life is supposed to be lived profoundly. You're supposed to be aware of all that's happening around you. This is what it means to raise your consciousness, to become aware that so much is happening around you and to get out of your own head. And this is why meditation. Now, a lot of people will say, but I try to meditate, my thoughts just won't stop. I can't stop the thoughts. And you're absolutely right. You can't stop the thoughts. That's the thing. The thoughts will go and go and go and go and go. But what you can do is you can choose where your attention goes. You don't have to put your attention on the thoughts. Once you realize you are not your thoughts, you are the higher consciousness, the awareness, that which knows that you have thoughts. You know you have thoughts, right? So who is it that knows that they have thoughts? You. There's a higher dimension of who you are that knows that you have thoughts. So when you're no longer identified with those thoughts, you can experience life in its true essence. This is the key to living a profound life. It's very, very simple. Getting out of your head and becoming present. And you can't stop the thoughts. So the key here is to accept them. Accept the thoughts instead of trying to get rid of them, because you cannot get rid of the thoughts. The nature of the mind, listen closely, maybe even write this down somewhere. The nature of the mind is to multiply. You can't delete from the mind. So whatever you try to get rid of from the mind, whatever you try to not think about, that is what you will think about most often. That's it. That's how the mind works. That's the nature of the mind. Whatever you try to not think about, you will think about most often. So just accept whatever nonsense is going through the mind. It's okay. You don't identify with it. You don't give it attention. And come back to the breath. Realize life is happening all around you and within you. Your breath, your heartbeat. These things are happening. If you take 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes out of your day to simply sit still, focus on the breath, it can bring tremendous balance to your life. Tremendous balance. But you have to do it every day. I have a free meditation process I'll give you. I'll leave it here or here. It's on my YouTube channel. It's called Inner Transformation Guided Meditation. So do this inner transformation meditation every day for 40 days. If you do it once, you may feel peaceful. You may feel, calm. The mind may calm down a little bit, but that's only good. It's not going to lead to lasting transformation. You have to do it every single day. Add some discipline to your life. This is extremely important for the reasons I just explained throughout this entire video. So with that being said, much peace and love. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not yet subscribed. Hit the like button, leave a comment. It helps get this information out to more people. Much peace and love. I will see you in the next video.